My lobster got a magnet. Lobster's a 10, I told you grab it. Hey, welcome to Lobster Magnet's Review, the channel, the review. I'm here with my buddy Gorogregoro.
Yeah, I'm here with Lobster, and who's that?
Are you just like pointing at things? Evening, folks.
Let's just assume he's the overlay master. We'll just assume it like makes sense, you know.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do that, you should fucking tell us in advance.
Oh,
just fucking saying.
Okay, I should say Zavule's on the very left, Lobster's in the middle, and I'm on the very right.
Okay.
Also,
so that's why I point that way.
Figure out some fusion dance in the future, but you know, we'll this is not anime fun time. There is no manga this week, but we have Pickle Rick. You know what's kind of amazing about this episode? It is the stupidest, dumbest idea in the world. Like I remember when like it was revealed in like Comic-Con, Scott, you were like, "What the fuck, Pickle Rick? What is the point of Pickle Rick? Rick gets himself in a pickle." But yet, amazingly, through Dan Harmon and whatever dark demon magic and cabal of writers he has in his room, was able to take the absolute stupidest, dumbest idea and make a really compelling. I liked it much better than last week's episode. I mean, last week's episode was great, but this felt like, I think, like some of the funnest episodes of Rick and Morty is like when Rick is like kind of like kind of forced to like
confront his bullshit.
Yeah, confront his bullshit,
and then just like go off on a rant that is basically Dan Harmon using him for a mouthpiece to express his fucking views on therapy. Because I swear to God, he has made that rant before.
Yes,
in Harmontown.
He's definitely gone to a lot of therapy, and you could definitely feel that reflected in this episode. But surprisingly enough, he still gives like the therapist like an amazing monologue of insight, and then the crushing realization in that like last car scene where they're just like, I liked her, I want to go back.
Please, for fuck's sake.
Can go back while just Beth like continues to enable Rick's horrible behavior.
Yeah, pretty much. I fucking called it. I fucking knew it. He's just repressing the ever-loving shit. That's the fucking Szechuan sauce. That is literally everything he's doing. Is he's just like cannot deal with the fact that he has feelings again, and is now just going out of his way. Now I have to say, who else was actually curious as to what the fuck was in that syringe?
Wasn't it just like human anti-pickle serum?
He injected himself at the end of the episode.
Oh, I know that, but I mean the entire episode. Were you curious as to what was in it, or did you just assume it was something that would turn him back into a human?
Yeah, it was like magical science MacGuffin juice.
At some point I didn't even care like what it was. Like I felt like Rick kind of like put this on himself to be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna set a super difficult challenge for myself, and
I will be entirely honest. Based on past behavior, I kind of assumed it was him.
You assumed it was what?
Oh, I assumed it was something that would kill him. Like I was actually surprised when it turned him into a human.
Like, you thought it would
hey, can I have that? And then I just assumed he was gonna break it and like throw it out the window or something. Just get rid of it. He was upset when Beth picked it up, and my assumption like, oh, you've turned yourself into a pickle. Oh, isn't that convenient? So you just can't move out of the way while you essentially set up a death trap for yourself.
But aren't there like
the entire time that it's just like a challenge for you to get out of, so that you can kill yourself without actively having to worry about whether or not you're going to kill yourself, because it's just a challenge, and maybe you'll mess up and die rather than go to therapy.
That's an interesting idea. I never even thought of that.
It's an interesting interpretation,
and it's lampshaded a little bit in the therapy session because she specifically asks who thinks they know what's in the in that syringe. Beth doesn't raise her hand, and the two kids slowly do. And they're still hesitant about it.
But wasn't the idea of like, basically the subtext of that scene was like, which one admitted that Grandpa turned himself into a pickle just to get out of therapy, and is willing to admit it, which is the two kids who know, Rick versus Beth, who's in complete denial.
But my assumption was like, in part, like, okay, who thinks they actually know what's in this? If it actually was like something that would turn him back into a human, then yeah, fine, sure. But I kind of feel like at least the kids understand he's not a healthy person, and that may have been something to try and kill himself because.
Oh, you think the kids raised their hand because they thought the serum was going to kill him? Or
no,
because it was going to turn him into a human?
They like, I would say like 75% sure that was something that would turn him back into a human, which is why the slow hand raise of like, yeah, I think that's going to turn him back into a person. I'm like 3/4 sure that's going to turn him back into a person,
but like,
and not be like an elaborate suicide attempt like the last fucking time he tried to kill himself.
But like, no one in the family is like aware of like. I guess Morty is because he knows Wubba Lubba Dub Dub is like I'm in great pain. But like I feel like his suicidal tendencies is something he keeps very well guarded and is largely off screen for most of the other characters.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right.
Probably like Morty would have like the most insight about it, but
yeah,
even him, it'd just be like, it'd be very vague. Wow, this is like a really fucking dark turn for this analysis of this episode.
They did promise like this was going to be the darkest season yet, and so far they have delivered.
Yeah,
hand in fist.
Yeah. Like I honestly expected that to be another suicide attempt, and like just like the most painfully jokey, ridiculous way to kill yourself. Because I'm a pickle, I can't do anything.
Well, I don't think that's the correct, and obviously it wasn't. But
It
you know
wasn't.
that is an accurate, that is an interesting interpretation.
Oh, I know. It's just like that is not how it turned out, but that was my assumption the entire episode, and I was actually surprised when it turned him back into a person. Like I literally thought he would have preferred to die than talk about his feelings and go to therapy. Like that was my literal assumption. Is like, oh, so you guys are going to therapy. What does Rick do? Rick has turned himself into a pickle. Why? Because he's literally going to kill himself before he allows anyone to like just get inside and actually figure out what the hell is going on with him. So I'm pleasantly surprised that he didn't try and kill himself and he was just
maybe that has something to do about why Beth is enabling him so much, because she feels like she has to be on his good side, otherwise he'll feel
Beth
depressed
actually
and
didn't
want to kill
raise her
himself.
hand.
Well, the Beth reason why she enables him is that like Rick left her at some point when she was a child, and she has like abandonment issues, and now the fact that she's back and she like.
But yes, that too. But like it could be like layered. It'd be like, Rick is also feeling suicidal, so Beth feels like she has to overcompensate to.
Beth is completely
save Rick.
oblivious to his suicidal tendencies. Like she puts him on the highest pedestal and excuses everything because she takes immense pride in the fact that Rick is this like incredible genius, and she takes immense pride that she's in her own weird way a woman of science because she's a horse surgeon. So that puts her more closer to Rick than anyone else because she has some sort of like medical and scientific training.
All right, so two things. One, obviously I was wrong. So, next question. The embassy sequence. I have not seen John Wick, but I've been told that is like a direct homage. Has anyone seen it?
I've seen parts of John Wick. Well, John Wick is a movie, like one of those movies I always like mean to see, and I've seen like bits and pieces of it, but I haven't like forced myself to like sit down. And there's part of me that's kind of angry at myself about it because like I hear keep on great things about John Wick. To me, it felt like a not so much like. John Wick is basically, it is like the creme de la creme of action movies, but it's not super unique other than the fact that Keanu Reeves like headshots people a lot. That's like John Wick's gimmick. He will headshot the fuck out of you. But to me...
So Roadhouse isn't the fucking creme de la creme, motherfucker?
No, I'm sorry, it isn't.
Come on, Roadhouse is fucking awesome.
Oh god, that reminds me. One brief tangent, like, god, I don't know if I can find the video anymore, but like, at my old job... Like the stupid boss made me edit a video which combined like Patrick Swayze like dancing with like Roadhouse footage. So it would like Patrick Swayze from Dirty Dancing, and then it would be like Roadhouse footage, and it was the stupidest, most retarded thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that does sound pretty goddamn stupid.
Oh yeah, but you know what the best part is? I'm getting close to 2K subscribers, and once I hit 2K, I'll be like less than 700 away from beating my old company.
Oh my god.
That is
Yes.
so sad. It's just three schmucks in their fucking room. Cleaning a fucking billionaire's company.
Talking about an episode where some guy transforms himself into a pickle.
When that happens, when I surpass it, maybe I'm going to do like a special video, and it's just going to be an incredible spite cast of me just like twirling in my chair and going, I'll be enjoying myself just as much as like Rick enjoys turning himself into a pickle. But to me, like that whole going back to the episode, that felt like less it was like John Wick and more like it was just like a pistache of like every '80s action Die Hard ripoff put in.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt to me, but I wasn't sure, so I figured I'd check.
Yeah, I think it was like definitely broader. It was just supposed to be. That was another fucking fantastic thing.
It's just like action sequence porn, basically.
Yeah, just like ultra violence porn where like, God, I love that slow reveal where like he built the roach suit and then the rats are about to come through.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
It was so brilliant how he did that.
Like
too.
the giant super rat, a fucking name.
You think I should give you Scar or Big Tooth or something like that, but you don't even get the dignity of that.
Why? Because you're still a fucking rat.
Yeah, there was something I was reading in the Onion AV Club's coverage of the episode, but they talked about it like, basically the idea of him like going in the embassy was like him going into like a toxic male power fantasy, and the idea of like he was ultimately him escaping therapy through this like cathartic Die Hard with a vengeance fantasy, him just killing every Russian or whatever in the embassy. And it's funny because like they kept it apolitical, and it was just like you didn't really know what the embassy was for. So no one could be offended, but I just love the sequence of like Rick with his improv laser beam that he kept on inserting fucking batteries into it.
AA batteries.
Exactly, his fucking Spartan laser. Which is...
I still fucking love the fact that Jesus Christ, just like after all of that, just walks into therapy. Yes, but you're still the one covered in blood and rat feces.
That was the greatest thing. And then she completely, maybe for someone like you, it's like wiping their ass and cleaning their teeth, but it's still work. And
you still have to do it to be healthy. Like, this is boring, but come on.
It's not as exciting as stapling your innards with a pickle from a hamburger.
I fucking love that.
While in the midst of the fight against Danny Trejo's, super assassin guy. And yes.
God.
Okay, I have like some thoughts about this episode, like with two things. One, I thought maybe it's kind of like Rick turning himself into a pickle is kind of like this really dumb kind of pun on like Rick gets himself into a pickle again.
Well,
to escape his problems.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. It was like a dumb idea. Either Justin Roiland or Dan Harmon went into the writer's room and said, Rick Pickle's a Rick! Rick is a pickle! And of course, Rick gets himself into a real pickle. And I guess that's like also remarkable is like almost any like trite and cliched thing, like, it almost seems like something like, episode 1001 of The Simpsons, Homer becomes a pickle in the nuclear power plant. Just kind of like roll your eyes at it, because it is on all basis a terrible idea. But yet, here we are, Pickle Rick!
Yeah, I mean, to be entirely fair, though, that is just perfect. Because if you look at it, a lot of your trite, like, oh my god, this is how many seasons of Simpsons are we in? It's now just background noise for Gen Xers who just want to put something soft and comforting on in the background.
Oh god, Scott, you have to see it at some point. There's Super Eye Patch Wolf did a brilliant video about like talking about the decline of The Simpsons and how it fell from grace.
I need to watch that. I used to love
good.
The Simpsons, like everybody else, and then
I used to watch it religiously.
Me too.
But
Me too.
The point is, okay, when you have that like umpteenth season and there's nothing left to do, the gimmick is the entire point of the episode. That is exactly where you're pulling from. It's just, okay, there's nothing left to explore. Fuck it, he's a pickle now. All right, fuck it. The Fonz gets on a fucking a jet ski and jumps a fucking shark. I don't care anymore. Okay, Indiana Jones throws himself into a fucking refrigerator. Okay, but what makes Rick and Morty so interesting? And why we care that he's a fucking pickle. I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter. It could have been a cucumber. It could have been
it could have been any vegetable.
Onion. It doesn't matter. The point is, we're watching it for the human interaction. We are watching it for not the fact that he's a pickle. The gimmick is funny, but if you really drill down to the heart of it, the gimmick isn't the point of the episode. And it almost never is, except possibly Get Swifty. and of course the fucking intergalactic pan-dimensional like clip show episodes. Those are fun. Those are gimmicky, but they don't,
even those they managed to get some, like, you know, catharsis. Like the first one, like, has a really great emotional thorough line where, like, you know, Summer realizes that she's basically an unwanted pregnancy, and the entire foundation is, like, of her life and family is built upon that lie.
The gimmick isn't the point, and that's what makes Rick and Morty so interesting, and why you can throw so many fucking terrible cliche gimmicks in is it doesn't really affect.
It makes you think, like, towards the end of the episode, like, you think about, like, you know, something a little bit deeper besides the gimmick. I guess, right?
Well, they've usually got like great character dynamics, and there's usually like a very sort of like, you know, nuanced psychological underpinning in terms of the sort of dysfunctional dynamic that goes a little bit beyond like the typical, oh, everyone hates Meg, you know, that, like, you know, it's like the best of both worlds. You know, we get the over the top amazing sci-fi, and we get something that like pushes a little bit harder than, like, I don't know, what do you think is like the most heartfelt episode of Futurama? The one where, like, the dog, like, waits for Fry forever until dies?
Or the Space Honey episode.
Space? Which one?
Where Leela ends up in a coma.
Oh yeah,
and
that Fry was like hallucinating, or no, Leela was hallucinating.
Yeah,
and Fry was like keep on saying, "Wake up, Leela, wake up."
Yeah, it's like one of those two. But the thing is, they do it consistently.
Yeah, they're like, those are like once in a blue moon, once every 50 episodes. While Rick and Morty manages to, like, you know, pull out that's like even like the mind parasite episode, which was another one of my favorites.
Just does manage to, like,
God damn, that Space Honey
tear
episode was
away
really good.
Part of, you know, that happy family facade, and, like, just really examine how fucked up and broken this family is. Because they're able to tell who's who, because they have terrible memories of each other.
And that's ultimately what defines family more so than, like, happy times, which is, like, this sort of, like, fundamental truth that people don't want to admit, but, like, you know, kind of, like, strikes at the core.
Yeah, or there's, like, the jokey, like, oh, everybody's a Cronenberg monster now. I mean, most series would just return to the status quo, and Rick and Morty just turns that on its head as hard as it can.
Well, that was an amazing thing.
The status quo in the most depressing and emotionally upsetting way possible.
Then Rick mucked things up too much. There is no returning to the status quo. We'll return to the status quo by entering into another universe. The Cronenbergian universe is completely fucked. Yeah, they're also... And Rick's like...
So, do I have infinite daughters?
No, probably not.
No, of course not. Just me.
Oh, so there's like this other point I wanted to bring up. There's about the psychiatrist in this episode, or the therapist, whatever.
Okay.
She played that so unbelievably straight.
Well, you know who voiced it, right? It was like a really famous person, Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon. Oh my God, I'm so bad with.
She's like a famous actress. I can't think of anything she's been in, but she's been in a lot of shit. She's like a pretty legitimate Hollywood professional.
I should know who this is, but
here, you know what?
This like from our generation, I feel too.
She's kind of older Sarandon. Yeah, she's like 70. She's been in a ton of shit. All right, so let's see.
Yeah, I also like the fact that...
Yeah, she's been in, like, Elizabethtown, Mr. Woodstock, Enchanted, Peacock, Cloud Atlas. It's just a ton of shit. Twilight. Not the Twilight we think
Rocky
we know
Horror.
Yeah, she's a pretty well-respected actress and a pretty big get. Well, I'm trying to think who's like the best. I think my favorite celebrity stunt casting in like Rick and Morty was like having Werner Herzog for like that one episode.
Well, okay, but it wasn't just that. Okay, back to my point that I was trying to make.
Yes,
She played it so straight, and it made me think like, why is she playing it so straight? She's just like so calm about like, and so accepting about everything that Rick is doing. It's like, of course Rick turned himself into a pickle. Do you think that serum would turn him back into something else? What?
I mean, to be fair, the Earth has been invaded by the Galactic Council and all that other good shit.
But hear me out. What if everything that's ever happened in Rick and Morty was like just all in Rick's head?
I guess.
It could be. I don't think.
I mean, at that point, you can pull that with almost any series.
I guess so.
There's that famous like. There's this ongoing theory about like how like half of like the '90s shows from the '90s are all connected to this like autistic child because at the end of the series, I don't know, it's like the Bob New Hope show or something. It ends with like, you know, looking that the town is inside this like snow globe held by an autistic child. And then there's this popular fan theory that like, you know, this autistic child, every single TV show in like the late 80s and the early 90s is connected by this in this kid's imagination.
Jesus. Okay.
That's actually a thing.
Like,
sure.
I guess I was thinking like whatever we're watching right now with Rick and Morty is just kind of like this warped reality that Rick is viewing right now of everything. And, you know, these are like actual real situations a lot of the time, but he, like, the way we're viewing it, like Rick turning himself into a pickle, like Rick, quote unquote, getting himself into a pickle, could be just a metaphor. And Rick is like interpreting it in his mind, like, oh, I'm literally a pickle.
I don't think so. I really don't think. I think that would kill like half of the series appeal. Like,
yeah.
I feel like you could like maybe like do a trick out where like 80% of the episode is that before you reveal everything's kind of like the same. But half of the appeal is like Rick can build anything. Rick can go anywhere. That's half of the fun that like makes it more creative. That gives us all the creative alien designs. And like to kill that would be like to kill like half the series appeal.
Plus, I mean, they have been pretty good about avoiding those kind of like, oh, it was all a dream bullshit.
Yeah,
like, especially with the psychiatrist, where the therapist, when they walked in, is like, I turned himself into a pickle. I'm just sitting there like, okay, here we fucking go. The B story of this episode is going to be them trying to convince the therapist that Rick is actually a super scientist. No, we sidestepped that. We're just going to go right into your serious emotional problems. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, that would have been like the really interesting thing of like when you like watch or listen to Harmontown. Listen to Harmontown is like you get to learn a lot about like Dan Harmon's philosophies towards writing, and you know how much he hates hacky shit.
Like, like having to explain to people who are out of the loop, like, oh, you know, there's no way your grandpa's like a super scientist, you know, blah blah blah, and does all this crazy stuff, and instead he just like will skip to that. Well,
it's more fun that like, you know, everyone just takes it at face value. Like there's part of me that like an anal part of me that like wonders like, you know, considering Rick can cross dimensions and like talk to aliens, does like the Rick and Morty universe, are they aware of aliens? Are they aware of like, you know, all these discoveries that like Rick does so casually? Like when they have the teen house party, why are like the humans not freaking out the fact that they have all these interdimensional aliens that are, you know, in the household? But like generally it's more fun to just like take it at face value and not like, you know, it's like the same thing with the Venture Brothers. Like, you know, they live in a universe where, you know, superheroes exist. There's an organization of like heroes and villains, the Guild of Calamitous Intent. So in this existence, why do they still like talk about Star Wars and, you know, our superheroes? Wouldn't those superheroes not exist given the fact, you know, how can they have like their own parody version of Johnny Quest, which is the Venture family, and then another parody version of Johnny Quest, which is like a Brace Banner. They have like a, you know, like another character who's like a more direct parody, and still have like, you know, the Rusty Venture TV show, which is a parody of Johnny Quest. Or like talk about Spider-Man and then have their own in-universe parody version of Spider-Man. But, you know, the point is that you shouldn't really just think about it. You know, the fact that they can like talk about pop culture so much makes the Venture characters more relatable to us in the terms of like, you know, they just like to hang out and, you know, just chill.
Yeah. And that is part of what makes 21 so much fun.
Henchman 21.
He's such a fucking nerd. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's relatable to, like, you know, even the Monarch is like this you know, psychopath with this stupid vendetta against this failed scientist. You know, you could still empathize and relate to him just because, like, you know, when he's like shooting the breeze, he'll like talk about Lost or some other like, you know, pop culture thing. It makes him feel yeah. It makes him feel like much more relatable because he's just like you. He's just like hanging at the water cooler, and he's a decent enough guy to like talk to his, like, you know, the people who work for him. Most of them.
Wow. Yeah, the Venture Brothers is a whole other story. I haven't gotten too deep into that. Maybe saw like the first season at best.
Well, it's interesting because you could say that like this Venture Brothers and like Rick and Morty share some DNA. Like Venture Brothers is an exploration and failure, and while I don't think Rick and Morty is an exploration of, well, I guess you could say an exploration of human failure.
So you mean like society?
I don't know what we call that. It's just like it's. I'd probably go probably closer to like an exploration of human misery.
Yeah, exploration of human misery, and like, you know, you can have everything and nothing. You know, who's happier? Jerry, the man who can just like, you know, is happy like watching Midnight Run on a VHS tape with a fake version of his wife, or Rick, who, you know, knows the infinity of the cosmos, but, you know, wants to kill himself.
Yeah.
And you know, the only, I wonder if we're gonna get that like later this season, an episode where we sort of like understand that like one of the reasons why Rick keeps Morty around is because Morty is one of the few people who can tolerate him, and that's why he likes Morty so much.
Well, I mean, also just the practical reasons he keeps Morty around.
What is the like brain dampener? Or I'm trying to remember.
The brain dampener. That episode
brain dampener
totally explained it.
Explain why they keep him around.
Remember the whole
the
ball
question is
of
why
Mortys?
they keep Summer around.
The whole ball of Mortys that was like shrouding that Rick's base.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if we get Evil Morty to come back. It's funny, like, in an interview, Justin Roiland was like, you know, people keep on asking about Evil Morty. We talked about, we're going to do something with Evil Morty, but it's not as cool as you think it is going to be.
Well, that's kind of cool. I can't wait for that.
I'm now curious about that.
But yeah, I think that was a pretty good summary. Like, so what score would you give this episode?
Oh God! Now that I know everything, I'd give it at least a 9. I had a ton of fun with this.
Yeah, it's a good example of like showing how like even like putting Rick in a small scale situation can be immensely entertaining. It's funny though. I guess maybe the more Rick focus of like Rick, like, you know, kind of like putting himself in a situation where he has to like think his way out of it is a little bit more fun than like, you know, Morty and Beth, not Morty and Summer, just working out their emotional issues in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Yeah, so it was definitely a 9. I mean, the last episode was strong, but this one felt like much, much stronger.
Oh, yeah. All right, so go ahead and give that.
Yeah, it's like 9. It's a 9 or 8.5. Like, I could watch this episode again and enjoy myself.
Yeah, you could probably just watch it on loop for like a couple hours and just be fine with it. It's visually engaging, and it's got like a really good emotional thorough line, and it manages to balance the ridiculous with the more mundane pretty expertly.
I guess like the only thing I would say negatively about this episode is like sometimes like a lot of the action sequences seemed a bit too cliche, I guess, but
yeah, but they were like so fucking violent, you know. Even if like the action is cliche, they're like so over the top and violent, and so many little fun details, and the fact that like just seeing Rick like pulverize all the fucking rats, like
Rick going against like an action movie villain, like a stereotypical action movie villain, and like having all the beats play out like from like some crazy Die Hard movie or some bullshit like that. You know, you could sort of see like what was going to happen at the end from like a mile away, but you know, it's still fun. It's still enjoyable. That's why I give it like an 8.5.
All right, I guess I can see that.
I don't, but you're entitled to your opinion. Like you know, so you could say that like, oh, I think you know, but like not everything is like designed to give you a surprise twist. Sometimes like, you know, the journey, even if the prediction destination is like predictable, is engaging in and of itself, and if it's well executed, then yeah, you get yourself a fine piece of entertainment.
I mean, there's lots of things that I liked about this episode. Like, there's lots of layers to this episode too, but just this one particular part of it, which doesn't even feel that significant, just felt a little bit, you know, stereotypical.
I will say that like maybe you could argue that like Jaguar isn't quite as clever as like some of the other like media parodies, like, you know, the devil in the Wicked something.
Oh
Wicked,
god, that
Wicked.
was
That was a great fucking episode. Or like Scary Terry.
I don't know, who's that again?
He's the he's the parody of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Episode.
Yes. That
like
was pretty good too.
Those I think are like better media or better parody characters than like Jaguar was, but like I think the emotional stuff with this therapist easily pushes that through the roof. So, you know, just because like Jaguar didn't have like a multi-layered, because well that's the sort of thesis that like whatchamacallit, Super Eye Patch Wolf comes to, is like the early Simpsons episodes are great because they like have like 40 comedy passes, and every like 15-second gag has like 4 beats to it. And there's a lot of that in Rick and Morty, where like the best gags are like multi-layered and keep on building on it upon each themselves. And you know, the Jaguar is like maybe like 1 or 2 jokes, but like, you know, that's like a minor criticism. Everything else kind of still holds up as like a really strong piece of fun entertainment. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing like people screaming Pickle Rick and dressing up as Pickle Rick and Pickle Rick memes, and it's just going to go everywhere. I'm trying to think, how many different versions of Rick have we had now? We've had Tiny Rick, Pickle Rick.
Can you imagine the merchandise that could be made from Pickle Rick now after this episode? Just like
I'm
all these little plushies of
Pickle
Rick.
I don't think Dan Harmon expected to be like 10 times richer than he ever did with anything with Community off of his like fucking Adult Swim show, which was just sort of like a, hey, we like what you do. Why don't you just throw something at us? And now it's like kind of like, I don't know if it's bigger than Community.
Dan Harmon did Community.
Yeah.
I really liked Community, like some episodes. I didn't watch the whole thing or that much of it, but the episodes I did see, I really liked.
Is it all starting to connect, Greg? Is it all starting to make sense now?
Actually, it feels very different in terms of humor for Rick and Morty.
Well, I think Rick and Morty is a little bit more of like a bitter, darker shell that he can get away with, because like, but I'm sure like all the smarter, I don't know, I haven't watched much of Community. I feel like I owe it to the man to like eventually do that at some point. Mm-hmm. But like I've heard like the funniest, best episodes of Community like are on par with like, you know, the good stuff on Rick and Morty.
I guess like the Dark Timelines thing would be an example. That's an episode that's everybody talks about all the time.
All right, it's a dumb question. What are we shilling? Because pickles seem like the most obvious choice.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to go a little further than that.
Well, that is a good question, because like I wish there was
batteries.
No, I wish there was like Pickle Rick merchandise, but obviously there isn't going to be for a while. But yeah, Dan Harmon is a very lucky man because, you know, so let's see. I've got dill pickle cashews, collage and dill pickles, Fiesta toy Mr. Pickle mustache and glasses, I'm kind of a big deal mug.
Jesus Christ.
Like kind of a big deal mug.
Mm-hmm. It's got a little pickle handle. Then there's Pickle, the formerly anonymous prank love of Fountain Middle Point High School. It's like a little children's book.
Let's see, what else we got here?
There's Van Holzen's Pickle in a Pouch Jumbo Dill Pickles 12-pack. None of these things. There's Pickle Juice.
Oh, hey, there is, in fact... Wait, no, is there? No, this is all fucking knockoff shit.
There's fancy pickle-flavored candy canes.
That sounds
Yes,
disgusting.
let's do that.
Do that.
Yes.
That sounds absolutely gross.
You can taste Rick's pickle adventure in candy form with pickle-flavored candy canes, the flavor that nobody ever asked for, or now available for you to enjoy.
Ever.
Yes, or wanted. Do you love pickles so much? Do you just can't get enough of them? Are they like your favorite thing ever? Well, then celebrate the joy and wonder of eating pickles with motherfucking candy cane forms. Buy your Pickle Rick candy cane pickle candy of terribleness up there. Click the link down there. Look it up there. Go down there to click the link. And if you want something that's better pickle themed, then shop it off at Amazon. Just click it through the link. It helps me out. Until Adult Swim releases Pickle Rick merchandise, which I'm sure they'll do in a few months. Although, if I had my shit together, I'd be in those pre-production meetings, and I'd try and figure out oh man, which Rick and Morty thing is going to become the next meme? We need a new, what's going to be the next Mr. Meese?
Honestly, it'd probably pay off just to have an artist create 10 basic designs that they could sketches that they could flesh out at a moment's notice, and see what the internet took to, and then just mass produce that. Make me a bunch of sketches. I will pay you for the sketches, and when the internet goes ape shit over one of them, then make that.
Yeah, but I feel like Dan Harmon would hate to have anyone determine oh my god, people love Possum Rick. He's like, fuck you, I'm not writing Possum Rick episode. I don't care how much people love Possum Rick with a bunch of Mortys sucking on his teats. I'm not doing it. I'm not. Yeah, I had 6 years of NBC. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I'd be kind of curious, how they come up with all their jokes. How is it still funny after so many episodes?
Good writer's room, and well, it's not that many episodes. Rick is still in its infancy. It's only 3 seasons. There's only been I don't know, 20, 25 episodes.
Yeah, it's not that huge
we're
right now.
3 seasons?
Yeah.
Oh, I accidentally labeled it as season 2 for some reason.
God damn it. Oh, dumb question.
Don't worry, you can put a 3 over it.
Right, I just want to check something really quick. In the opening, I am 90% sure that season 1 had 1 + 1 = 2 flyby. Season 2 had 2 + 2 = 4, and season 3 has 3 + 3 = 6.
I'd have to double check.
What?
I don't know. There are lots of videos where they have little Easter eggs about the Rick and Morty intro. I don't know. I'll have to pay attention to that when tonight's episode runs, because we'll probably be back in another few days. I'm looking forward to tonight's one, where it looks like Dan Harmon's going to rip into superheroes, and there's this. Did you guys see the preview for the next one?
No, I didn't.
No.
Basically they're Rick and Morty are in this hero council, and they're there's this guy who flies in, and he looks like he's supposed to be a parody version of Star-Lord, and he's hey, I just got in from happy hour, and then he saps a martini glass, and then Rick says, no one claps to my admitting alcoholism ever. So I think tonight's going to be a really good one.
All right.
We'll have to wait a day or two before you hear our thoughts.
Sounds
on
like
it.
perfect timing too, with all the hero stuff in both the anime world and the
what, the real world that's been saturated with superheroes for
cinematic movie
decade.
universes. Yeah.
Well, Dan Harmon says he hates superheroes.
Oh, he does it.
There's even a scene.
Yeah, he's been pretty cranky about it.
Ironically enough, though, even though he shat upon the Marvel movies multiple times, he was like hired to do rewrites for Doctor Strange, for, like adding more comic beats. But hopefully, this episode we'll get to hear his like State of the Union about the oversaturation of superhero shit, which will be good. All right, so we've had a long, fun time talking about this latest episode. Thank you guys for watching and listening to us. Like, comment, subscribe. Bid the fine people farewell.
Bye.
All right, folks. I'm out of here.
Remember, lobsters are tennis. Don't you grab it.
Lobsters